everyone. So this episode adapted quite a lot, covering the climax of the battle between Saw as well as the entire Osaragi versus Dump fight. And I'll be honest. I did really like this episode. There were a few things though that kind of stuck out that I'll definitely get into in this review. And I guess I guess I'll start by talking about the Saw versus Saw about the climax of the Saw fight, because I remember liking this fight for the most part in the manga, but felt it ended kind of weirdly for me, and most of my issues at the time were from the fact that Shin and Lu fainting felt like sudden and almost out of nowhere. But in retrospect, that was just me being dumb, because aside from the obvious of Lu being the more obvious case of being blitzed drunk off her ass, it is that classic case with Shin where overexerting his mind made him collapse from exhaustion. Like having to use his psychic powers in order to predict Saw's movements. Yeah, that's gonna overtax him. And this does set a bar for Shin of just where he's at with these new powers, that he can basically, when you really look at how many times he uses powers across this fight, he can seemingly use them about 2 or 3 times a day before he overexerts himself, which in itself is impressive that he can still use his future sight that many times already, just having awakened the power. But yeah, he still has room to improve and develop it, because with this Pandora's box open of Shin being able to predict an opponent's opponent's movements, Shin's potential with this power is kind of limitless now. Like he can, like him training the amount of times he'd be able to use it by actually training his mind now. It's kind of scary, like of Shin's development now, of where Shin's development could go from here. Now, admittedly, there is still one issue I do still have with this fight, and that's Lu, which, don't get me wrong, seeing her go Triad Drunken Fist on Saw was just as epic as it was in the manga, but it kind of exposes a problem I am having with Lu as a character at the moment, both in the anime and the manga, and that's just, she really only has this one mode when in a fight. Like, it's the problem of, by only having one weapon in your arsenal, she already has... only having one weapon in her arsenal has already made her feel like kind of the least interesting to follow in a fight, no matter how many variations you spin her Drunken Fist style. And I'm kind of still waiting for Lu's major development to happen. Like, I don't know when it's gonna. Again, I'm still, like, I guess technically mid to early in the manga, but like I'm every chapter I'm like, okay, when is Lu gonna finally actually develop and get her moment outside of, like, getting Drunken Fist style in a fight and whatnot. Like, I'm waiting for that moment, you could say. On that note, though, yeah, let's talk about the animation in this episode, because there is something that did kind of stick out as a little bizarre. As I said last week, the animation quality did improve, and that still is the case here, but there is a consistency problem, and there's a consistency problem I still am noticing. And one issue specifically I found is that I noticed by using one thing I specifically found is that I noticed the episode used a lot of white flashes, and it was very specifically in moments where it's where in between frames go, I believe. So because of that, the animation this week is. So because of that, by the fact that you can tell that they're covering up like in between frames, the animation this week does feel a little mixed. There's a lot about the animation this week that is still very good, but there's still a bit of a cleanup problem in fixing some of those more around the edges type mistakes, and this for me I think is going to be what potentially one of the potential problems with core 2 if this doesn't improve, is if they can't keep making these very little mistakes for some of the bigger moments and fights coming up. Like I have to assume that this was, like, I'm betting right now on the fact that the reason this happened is because they are saving on the budget for when a lot of those bigger moments hit in this arc. But yeah, I'm like, I think, but yeah, if let's just say they can't screw up like the major like centerpiece of this arc. That's all I'm gonna say on it. Like that's gonna be where they can't screw up. So hopefully that's the reason why this episode was a little bit more of a mixed bag, is because they put more effort in that area. But we'll just have to wait and see. Now, let's talk about the Osaragi fight itself, because there are some interesting things with Dump to talk about, more specifically about just how broken she is. Like with Dump, her whole version of love is, and I guess in a way, a lot more lust right out of the gate, but to her, the idea of love to her is the idea of someone only paying attention to her, all eyes being on her, no one else. No one else. So in her mind, like killing them in a way is her way to preserve that love and that affection, and and that affection and like and look, Dump is a killer. There's no way of getting around that. There's no like excusing what she's done, but the fact that she's killed all these people in the name of love shows she's never really known what true love or affection is, whether it's romantic or familial. Like Dump has been, from looking at Dump's, like I'm no psychologist or expert on this field, but just looking at Dump's backstory at face value, Dump has been starved of affection her entire life, so the only way she can feel that emotion that she presumes is love is by killing. And yet, even as she admits in this episode, even that doesn't work, as she's left with the feeling of emptiness. So she has no true understanding of love other than like the warped perception of it in her mind. And I will say this, when I first saw Dump's backstory in the manga, I did feel a little disappointed that we only saw things through the lens of the people she killed and less so through the lens of what drove her to this point. But the more I thought about it, especially leading up to the release of Core 2, the more it makes sense, because we don't need to be told what led her down this path, because at the end of the day, it was also her just own inability to connect with people that basically led her down this path and drove her mad, to like killing in the way she does. With that said, yeah, the big points of this episode, though, were also that we see Apart has already went rogue this episode, telling Kashima effectively he's going to run wild and do what he wants now, which in some ways kind of makes Apart the most dangerous of the bunch now. Not because he's not only because he's the most unhinged, although that is part of it, but because Kashima giving them the mission kept them on a leash of sorts. A short leash, but it kept them on a leash where it gave them a focus for their urges. But now with Apart's rebellion, there's nothing keeping him from going on a killing spree, so that adds more to the urgency for Taro to find and stop this man before it's too late. And of course, then there's the other problem where at the end of the episode we see a Minimalist pay a visit to the Sakamoto store, and all I'll say on that is, even if you haven't read the manga, you've seen this scenario before. You'll know what this situation is and how it's gonna play out next episode if you haven't seen it already. And I guess people have probably seen the next episode, because again, I live in Canada, so it's like the Netflix Canada is a little weird compared to Japan, or even. Right, I think even America, I think the U.S. gets it, and gets the full 3 episodes. I don't know, but yeah, we're kind of weird here. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Blue Sky, and on this Crunchyroll, be sure to click the subscribe button, and just share the around, guys. Dark Knight of Annie signing off. Later, everyone.